Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It's Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan. This is our game review podcast. It's our Monday morning podcast where we go through the carnage after a loss, is what we like to say. The Eagles lost. They had their little win streak snapped there. They lose to the Giants up at MetLife Stadium, 13-7. This is the type of game. I think I mentioned, I don't know if I said this on the podcast. I think I did, the preview podcast, Adam, where you can spend 2 hours, like you, myself, Greg Cosell, and Jason Avantu, breaking down every single element of the game, analyzing the matchups, trying to make sense of strengths versus weaknesses. And then because football is such a wacky sport where you can't account for the injuries and the wacky turnovers, where all your analysis just kind of goes right out the window, right? And this felt like that kind of a game where it didn't matter what we analyze, and I don't want to minimize our pregame show. I think it's pretty damn good. But it's at some point, people are always like, why do people suck at picking football games? Well, because who knows that Boston Scott is going to fumble? Who knows Jalen Reagor is not going to catch a ball right in his hands? Who knows Jalen Hurts is going to throw a certain ball that he almost never who knows that's going to happen? And then that's kind of like the tail of the tape here.
I would tell you, though, it's funny. You must have told me 10 times this week, I don't feel good about this game.
I'm kicking myself, Adam.
I know. And
I wanted to.
It's funny. I thought the Freddie Kitchens factor would be part of it, which it was for the first quarter. They had the flea flicker. They were throwing a first down, which I talked about in a pregame show, which might happen. They did early on. But that was not even a factor for the first quarter. It's just that self-inflicted wounds. That was the story of the game for this team. The Giants had nothing to do with it. It was all self-inflicted wounds by the Eagles. They have no one to blame but themselves for this loss. Seriously, they should have destroyed this team, okay?
Yes.
When you run for over 200 yards and you run the ball over 33 times and you lose, how's that even possible? But we'll get into that.
I don't know how it's possible.
As my voice goes high. Sorry.
Yeah, because that was a whole new octave there with you. No, so that's a very good big picture takeaway that the Eagles. Yeah, the Eagles completely had a chance to win this, and they did everything in their power to lose it. And yes, as you mentioned, the game will be remembered. And it'll be talked about over the next 48 to 72 hours about Jalen Reagor and how he dropped the balls at the end. And then it'll go to a bigger, he stinks, he should have never been drafted. I mean, people are going to say everything. But my takeaway that goes along with yours is that you cannot, the Eagles were starting to assemble a lot of trust in this city from the fans. Oh, they're going to win out, or they're going to do this. They're going to beat this team, beat that team. And then they went and played, they played a C to a D plus type of game against a division team on the road. And as you just mentioned, they made a lot of mistakes that they hadn't been making. Even in that loss to the Chargers, they didn't make. They've not been a bad turnover team all year, and they made those kind of mistakes. So there was a lot of macro in that, and there's some micro too that we'll get into. But the Eagles are not at the point where they can show up to a venue, especially of a Division I, not play their best game and think that they can win. They should not have garnered that kind of trust from anybody, fans, media, public, whatever. They're just not there yet. Now, to kind of extend on it, season ain't over. It's just a loss. If you thought the Eagles could make the playoffs before the game, they still can. Yep. There's plenty of weeks left to play. And obviously, some of this stuff was so, in my view, Adam, so, what's the word? The anomaly, because they haven't really played like this all year, giving the ball away and just being dysfunctional like that. They haven't done that all year, so no reason to think they can't pick things back up, beat the Jets, and get back into the conversation next week. We'll talk about that. But so because you and I do not like to be week to week with this team, and we are very firm on who we think the Eagles are, what their win capacity is. Nothing's changed for you and I. Still that 7 to 8 win team going into the year. Still think that. And this is just an illustration of it. They're not consistent enough to say like they're going to go and beat a team even if they don't play perfectly. They got to play really well, and they did not. They very much did not play a good game against the Giants.
Yeah, look, let's get into it. Offense, defense.
We will do that.
Just big picture. No, I'm just going to say you're right. They're absolutely the last wild card spot. That thing ought to go down to weeks 17 or 18. Gosh, 18 weeks.
I would think so, yeah.
So bizarre to say 18. doesn't register with me. 17 games is 18 weeks in mid-January. But anyway, they're still very much in it, and especially if they beat the Jets this Sunday at the same stadium. Oh my! I just don't understand the scheduling. It's just so bizarre.
Crazy scheduling quirk, right?
Yeah, it is weird, but they're going to be back in the same stadium, and for their sakes, they got to win this game.
Yep.
I could not imagine if they lose to the lowly Jets. I get the Jets won at Houston, but let's face it, Jets are a bad football team. They have to find a way to win that game. I'm sure they will. They're pretty humbled. The Eagle players were very accountable after that game. Boston Scott was awesome. I mean, he owned that thing as well as I've ever heard a player own a fumble.
Yes.
And Jalen Reagor, people, I think people actually have to listen to the press conference. Everyone's taking what he said. Well, it was just two drops. Listen to the way he said it.
Right.
It was people are. It's just when you have it out for somebody, you're going to go after them, and it's just not the way. I saw it on Twitter, and I was like, all right, I better go back and listen. Did he really say it that way? No, he didn't. He didn't say it the way you think he said it. Right. He talked about it. He said he owned it. He said, hey, I had two passes, but if you keep the reporters doing their job, kept asking them about it, what happened, this, that, and the other. He says, hey man, it was just two drops. What are you going to do? And
Absolutely.
People take it out of context, and that's what happens when you have something against somebody. You're going to do anything you can to bury the guy. That's
when the avalanche is falling, it falls hard. I mean, Carson Wentz dealt with it last year, and plenty of players. Nelson Aguilar dealt with it, and then once you've gotten to a certain point, there's almost no coming back from it. And we'll see. We'll talk about Jalen Reagor a little bit about the game and maybe his future when we talk about the offense. But you're absolutely right about that. Everybody, if you missed our pregame show, you can still we put it on YouTube and our podcast platforms now. A lot of people like to listen to it after the fact just to hear the good matchups and great stuff from really Jason Avant and he had a lot of great stuff about the wide receiver position. He answered the question really well on why you don't just put Kenneth Gainwell at the slot and call him your slot receiver. I think that's really important to listen to. Greg Cosell had some stuff about Jalen Hurts that was very pertinent in the game that we'll get into as well. Please continue to check out InsideTheBirds.com. I had my observation story. Adam will have his power rankings. We'll have more content throughout the week from the press conferences. And please, we really appreciate it. Very much appreciate it. And we ask that you keep going with the 5-star reviews on Apple because it's doing a lot for us and our reputation among the podcast world and the rankings. So we've gotten a very nice 5-star reviews lately. And the more we get, the better for us. So if you could continue to do that, we would appreciate that as well. Now, look, the Eagles didn't win. We know that. And I don't think they're going to be winning a Super Bowl. But we know that our listeners, Adam, can always win just like we do when they use Deal Dash, the online shopping platform that's actually fun. Deal Dash is the longest running penny auction website and app around. Some of the things that you can get it seems too good to be true. Like a new car going for $900 or a brand new TV for less than $2. Electronics, household stuff, kitchenware, tools, anything that you can. This is the season, the holiday season, all the great stuff you can get. And all you have to do is have a little patience, bid pennies on it, and you can come away with something really good at a discount price. So don't be a loser. Stop paying full retail price for things you want. Get on Deal Dash. You go to DealDash.com or download the app. And when you register, use the promo code ITB for a special offer for some bonus free bids. All right, let's get into the game. You want to just quickly go through some of the injuries because they weren't so severe, Adam, but they were actually more impactful in game than going forward, right?
Yeah. So Sanders turned his ankle. We came back, and then they went with Boston Scott. He clearly wasn't right. Watching the game, we all saw him kind of testing out the sideline. Kelsey missed some snaps with the knee injury, came back. Jack Driscoll could not come back with his ankle injury. Nate Herbig played a lot, obviously. He had to. Obviously had some critical penalties, not excusing it, but they blocked damn well in this game, this offensive line. I mean, they once again, man, they're just – if you listen to our pregame show, we all talked about it, what we had heard about their offensive line from just how well they've played over a 4 or 5 game period. They're just dominant, man. They get off the ball and it's negative of some of the obviously the issues on offense. Reagor's critical drops. Don't excuse that. I was just trying to say, hey, listen, when you're gonna criticize a guy what he says, at least listen to him. when people are taking headlines, but he had 2 critical drops, inexcusable. Boston Scott's fumble, can't have that. They had 4 turnovers. All of this, folks, is just amazing that they had turned the ball over 4 times, yet Hurts hangs in there as poorly as he played. They had a chance to win. Guy drops the football. You catch it, you go down and score, you get an extra point, you win the game. That's the thing. They should have not been in the game late, but they were.
No, you're right. It's amazing to think they lost it, but also amazing to think that they were in it with all the mistakes they made. Yeah. The injuries, thankfully for them, are not devastating going forward, but they certainly hurt them during the game. Jason Kelsey's being the biggest one because, as you mentioned, although they blocked well overall, Nate Herbig with the holding call that took away a touchdown by Boston Scott, and then he had another holding that took away like a 15 or 16-yard run by Jalen Hurts, so that hurt too.
Yeah, that I was just gonna say that cannot happen. They're just the self-inflicted wounds. I think that's what I would say. You know, if the Broncos game, right? The Broncos, the Eagles. I think the Eagles outplayed the Broncos, but the Bronco fan probably says, "Hey, wait a minute, Philly got lucky. That game could have been completely different if Melvin Gordon doesn't fumble it." Okay, but he fumbled it. Right. Here, the fact of the matter is, the Eagles had 4 turnovers. They should not have been in the game. Okay, when you turn the ball over 4 times, you generally will get blown out. They didn't, because Eagles defense, which we'll get into, they held its own, and they kept the team in the game.
Yeah, that's probably the frustrating part. You play another team that has a better offense than the Giants, which is about 26 other teams in the league, and you're probably not going to be in that game at all. So let's talk about Jalen Hurts.
Okay,
I think that this was, a step back for him. Not all progression is linear. So I know what you're going to hear a lot of this week. You're going to hear a lot of everybody who said last week that he was a franchise quarterback was wrong. Well, no. Yes, they were, because they did it prematurely anyway. But anybody saying he's not a franchise quarterback or can't be the long-term quarterback for this team because of this performance is being equally myopic and short-sighted. The bottom line, and we've said this you judge the guy on a year, and if he gets more than a year, then you judge that. You don't be week to week with it. You look for the things that he's doing well. Is he continuing to do them? The things he's doing poorly, does he get better? We had mentioned that he was getting better at staying in the pocket and making throws. And I still think he's getting better at staying in the pocket. One of the issues that they're finding now, Adam, and you saw this in the game, is that teams are actually trying the way they're scheming their pass rush. They're okay with him staying in the pocket, because the one area that we still have yet to see progress with the others is the timing and then anticipation. And when he's in the pocket and you take away that ability for him to want to get out of it, and you try to get him making a throw, he's late or doesn't see a lot of receivers, and I thought that hurt him against the Giants. There were plenty of throws that were just either a second late or a couple of seconds too late, and that can be the difference between completions and just either interceptions or incompletions. Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Watkins play. We'll get this cleared up for Wednesday. We'll the people we talked to grade Phillies tape. We'll find someone who could tell us that would know. To me, I did like how Hurts put it out there for Watkins to go get, but it was so far away from him. Now, some people say, "Oh, he stopped this route." Might have been true. Don't know. We need to find out. But the timing part is off. Now, it's interesting. The Denver game was the best we were told that he'd thrown inside the pocket really in his career. Like, he was tremendous against Denver with some big-time throws. Now, last year, the Arizona game where he played well overall, we brought the team back. Defense was terrible. That's why they lost. It wasn't – he got a lot of room to throw, I was told, in that game, where he would roll out, had time. He didn't play from so far in the pocket like he was in Denver. Denver, he really showed he can do that. But then you have this regression in this game, and you scratch your head. So you just have to continue to evaluate him and hope he learns from this. When they watch the tape, what we know about Hurts is, we talked about this in the pregame, super accountable guy. This is what the players love about him and the coaches love. He'll put it on himself, which the quarterbacks have to do. When you're the guy, you got to do that. And he said all the right things, like he always does. But the bottom line is, though, you're judged by the way you throw the football. You don't throw the ball well. That's
right. He's been struggling more recently, last 2 weeks, with the deep ball. We saw him miss Miles Sanders and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert on a sort of intermediate to deep route last week against the Saints. And then same thing this time. You mentioned Quez Watkins. He also had Jalen Reagor, who, and I'm sure the tape will show that Reagor had beat his man. That's why he threw it to Reagor. But it was a play where, again, you saw the hands kind of drop and the elongated windup to get the ball down the field. And what that did, it was such a high-arcing throw that it allowed the safety, I think it was McKinney, to cover the ground and then intercept the pass. It looked like he was throwing into double coverage by the time the ball landed, but I'm pretty sure when he threw the ball, it wasn't looking like that. There was double coverage. It was Reagor beating his guy. He does not have that zip. We talk about that all the time. That's fine. You don't need it, but then you need to be able to throw the ball faster, probably about 2 seconds earlier than he was throwing it to Reagor there, so that it gets to Reagor before the safety comes over, and it did not. Now, again, the game's always going to be remembered. Jalen Reagor dropped. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. But there were other times where he had opportunities to make plays that the quarterback was at fault, and that one was being one of them. And it seems now that teams are really scheming. You saw the Giants blitz both corners a couple of times, and their edge rushers go wide, and the Saints did this too, to keep him in the pocket. If he breaks it and goes up the middle, they'll take that. They know that's going to happen. They're going to give up one or two of those, but also he's going to have to throw a few times from the pocket, and they're going to have a chance to either bat the pass down, make it inaccurate, or pick it off. So they'll fight that battle. That's something he's going to have to adjust to now, the way they're rushing him.
Yes, although I'll tell you what, man, he's got some moves, and he's a downhill runner when he runs. He really does. He's got really good vision, and I still don't think I wouldn't call him explosive. Some people think he is. I don't. I just think he's really shifty. He's got great vision. He knows where to go. That's the thing that's been he's very decisive when he wants to run, for the most part. But first of all, Reagor's got to catch the football. Again, when it's in your hands, first of all, he's got to do a better job. That Cosell and Avant did a phenomenal job of breaking Reagor's issues down on our pregame show. This is the best I've heard anyone break his tape down. Greg talked about college tape. Jason worked with him last year. Jason knows how to catch the football and how to teach it. He did it better than most people. So this was just phenomenal. We should put those clips on YouTube, by the way, of just that stuff. So it was great, and you saw that. You saw that in the game.
Yes.
You got to know like when you beat your man or you're there, you got to know where you got to track you got to know where the ball is. Ball tracking for him has been an issue since he was drafted.
I would say that's a fair criticism, Jalen Reagor. That has been an issue. I don't know what's going to happen this week or the rest of the year with Jalen Reagor. I tend to think it's gotten to the point where, although it was pretty bad for Nelson Aguilar for 2 years before they moved him to the slot.
Yeah, his thing. Of course, he revived his career in a big way in 17. Helped him. It's really good. But his thing, he had an off-the-field issue, which was unfortunate. We don't need to get into that. But he also completely lost his confidence.
Right.
Completely lost it. He just couldn't get lined up correctly. It was really bad. Remember that Seattle game? Ooh.
Yeah.
But that's not Reagor's issues. It's just from a mechanical standpoint. Avant talked about his route running. Obviously, playing through contact. Remember, Reagor is a well-built guy. He should win with leverage. He should be able to shield the guy. This is the stuff. This is what got people excited in scouting from his TCU tape. You can debate whether he should have been a first-round pick or not. I'm happy to debate. You're definitely right. You could say he should have been early to mid-second round pick. I got no problem with it. But if you're going to tell me his college shape wasn't intriguing, you just don't know football. Because you and I talked to so many teams before and after the draft that we heard the criticism of Reagor. He was a double catcher in college. That was the one negative from him. Contested catch guy, explosive returner, which he's not been here, which is another problem. That's the thing. The stuff that people thought was really good in college, why are we not seeing it here? And that's what Reagor and that's what Avant and Cosell talked about in a pregame show, because they couldn't have outlined it any better. We just teed him up and they took care of it.
But see, the weird thing is, with some players, you just never see it. You say, this guy was just never meant to play in the NFL, right? With Jalen Reagor, you have seen it. You saw him return a punt last year. Was it against the Packers for 70 yards for a touchdown? Yeah. One of his the crazy thing about the lack of chemistry he has with Jalen Hurts, Hurts right now, is that one of Jalen Hurts' first throws when he took over for Carson Wentz was a 55-yarder to Jalen Reagor down the left side against a blitz. I mean, they had it that day.
Against the Packers, right?
It was against the Packers as well. So we've seen connection between them last year. And I just feel like it's part of this rut that those two are in, trying to get the ball to, to get a connection. In fact, I wrote this in the InsideTheBirds.com observation piece, Adam. Jalen Reagor, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, had 7 targets in the game, right? Do you know that that's more targets than he had in the prior 3 weeks combined?
Yeah.
He went 3 games with 6 total targets, and then all of a sudden he's getting 7 one game, which is, to me, it represents 2 things. One, a really blown opportunity on Jalen Reagor's part, and number 2, a lack of just consistent. Like, how do you're probably in the game thinking I'm only going to get the ball once or twice, maybe, and then all of a sudden you get the ball 7 times. There's no rhythm, there's no flow with these 2 guys. They both have to own it, more so Jalen because he had the opportunities to make plays. But he did have a nice 21-yard catch. I mean, we can't ignore the fact that he did make 2 good catches in the game.
Huge catch.
And then,
that was a great catch.
It was a really nice catch.
Yeah, that was a really good catch.
Yeah, and then he had an opportunity beating his guy in the third quarter to make a catch, and Jalen Hurts is the one who underthrew it on that one. So it's weird because it's the thing that happens last in the game, right? Nobody remembers the Patriots Seattle Seahawks Super Bowl for anything other than the interception that Russell Wilson threw at the 2-yard line, and why didn't Marshall and Lynch get the ball? Nobody remembers what happens in the 48 minutes before that, or any great plays that Russell Wilson might have made. So yes, it's unfortunate, but this is a team thing that they either have to figure out, and maybe it means they get in the offseason, they bring in like an extra, like an Allen Robinson, whatever. They make Devontae the Z, and they move Jalen to the slot, and that helps his career like it did with Nelson Aguilar. Or maybe it just means they move on and think that a change of scenery is better. Or option C is maybe the Eagles have a different quarterback who just has more experience and get the ball to more people throughout the game to keep them involved and invested. I don't know what the answer is to that, but it seems like the way it's going right now is just not working.
The thing that's disappointing is protection for the most part was terrific.
Yep.
Despite Kelsey leaving for a bit and Driscoll, that's the thing is like when you get protection like that, you got to win. You just got to win on offense. You just got to do it. And plus, they ran the heck out of it. I would love to know what the status for a team that ran the ball over 30 times and lost. I mean, how many times is that going to happen? And they did it again. You're right. 208 yards. It's just it's like you look at the yardage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Week 11, 242 on the ground. Week 10, 216. Week 9, 176. Week 8, 236 in a blowout loss at the Raiders, 135.
Right.
No one's running it better than they are right now, and they lost this game. It's inexplicable, but that's what I think Eagle fans go through. Their hair's on fire sometimes, and I'm sure it was Sunday afternoon.
You know, Cosell made a really interesting point in the pregame show about how the run is slowly starting to make a comeback into the NFL. If you think about some of the teams that are known for running the ball, it's not just 1 or 2. I mean, first of all, the Eagles are 1 and they stumbled on it.
But you notice how he set that up because he's very sarcastic, Greg, sometimes because he and Joe Banner are they're friendly. They have a lot of respect for each other. But Joe's on one side about passing it. Greg's like he thinks both need to be done, right? And he just thinks it's crazy that the run is irrelevant. I know what he means by that because and Bill Polian feels the same way. I've talked to Bill about it over the years.
Mm-hmm.
It's just there's a different way to look at it, and 2 things can be true. It's just how you go about it.
Sure. I mean, but you look at it now, teams that you associate with being very run heavy or run first are the Ravens, the Patriots. By the way, the number 1 and number 2 team in the AFC there. The Titans, who have 8 wins, even though they've been struggling lately. Those 3 right there. Minnesota runs the ball heavily. The Eagles now run the ball heavily. So there's at least 5, and Minnesota with Dalvin Cook tend to be a run, and Cleveland. I think I forgot to mention the Browns.
Cleveland, Minnesota. Right, Minnesota's not as much. They're actually throwing the ball more than Mike Zimmer wants, but their defense isn't as good. But you're right on Cleveland. Oh my goodness, they can't win without running the ball a ton. Right,
exactly. So it is starting to trend that way. Just really kind of fascinating how it's been like that.
Not what I was expecting. Yep.
No, not what I was expecting at all. But yeah, as they always say, here's where we're at. All right, let us. I want to talk about the offensive line a little bit as well. Of course, I want to tell you, if you want to get an advantage over your sportsbook, we've been telling you all about BetQL. It's the only app you'll need to make smart bets. They got a best bet computer model that scans over 350,000 unique bets a year to give you a best bet recommendation for every game across all major sports and gives you the reason why you should place the bet. Their model covers everything from spreads to over-unders and player prop bets. And if you don't want to use their model, if you like to do all the research yourself, they got stuff for you too. They got sharp data, line movement, team summaries, lineup and injury breaking news, even a leaderboards to track your success. So head to the App Store or Google Play Store now to download BetQL. You can also go to website try.betql.co/ITB to get started. Just enter the promo code ITB at payment checkout for 25% off their subscription offerings. Also, check out their sportsbook offers page if you live in one of the eligible states to claim free offers upon signing up at one of the many sportsbooks listed. So don't miss out on the chance to beat your sportsbook this football season using BetQL. And of course, you're going to want to use BetQL to own any of your sportsbooks, including DraftKings, which if you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code ITB, all you got to do is bet $1 on any NFL team to score, and you can win $100 in free bets. That's right, $1. And if that NFL team scores, you score with promo code ITB this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. That sounds like a great deal there. I think last I checked, I don't know, has anybody, even the Eagles and Giants, scored points on Sunday? Has anyone been shut out this year? Has anyone that you can remember been shut out this year?
I have to. Someone had to get shut out. Some teams are having trouble scoring.
Yeah, but I can't remember any shutouts. But maybe there's.
Well, it's funny. I picked the Saints, and I picked the Saints to get shut out. They only scored 6 points. They scored late in the game. And I also said the Titans wouldn't shock if they got shut out. They ran the hell out of it. It's weird. The Titans really ran the ball well, but they turned it over like crazy. The two young running backs had fumbles, and that cost them the game. But they were actually very tight at halftime. But overall, you just can't win. Sirianni talked about it in his press conference. By the way, there's no blame to him. I feel like people are like, oh, they should have kept running the ball. No.
Well, I was going to ask you that. Do you feel like they should have ran the ball more? I mean, they did run the ball a lot.
Folks. I've said this the last couple of shows. If you continue to run the ball well, there are going to be shot plays available. That's the benefit. You've said for several shows, when you do something right, really, really well, it sets you up later. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what this being a great running team does. This is why Cleveland with Kevin Stefanski, when Mayfield was brilliant last year, play action, you run the hell out of. They're so good at running with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. They got so many splash plays because teams are so fixated on them running the football. You're going to get splash plays, and they tried it. That's just the way it is. I mean, you got to throw the football. I mean, you it's not sustainable if you can't hide the quarterback all the time. You've got to let him throw. And I had no problem with it. You got to let Hurts throw. That's what they did.
Yeah, and again, they ran the ball. It's not like they were completely. They ran the ball 33 times for 208 yards, average 6.3 per carry. Could you maybe have ran the ball a few more times on first down to give yourself, a second and short? I suppose so, but I mean, 33 times for 208. That's plenty. It is the fewest. It is, by the way, the fewest run attempts that they've had over the last 4 weeks, but it's not like so. Their second fewest was like 36. So we're talking about a couple of carries here.
That's with 4 turnovers. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, Boston Scott, by the way, he has an explosive run. As he said after the game, I thought it was interesting. I don't necessarily agree with what he says in terms of being greedy, because he said he didn't cover up. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, fumbles happen sometimes when you're running through the hole. He would know better now. He's a running back. I didn't play. He did, but he does. But what I'm saying is, when you're going through the hole like that, you just assume, you should be. I mean, if you want to have it high and tight, okay, great, you should, as Tom Coughlin would say. But it was a great run. The guy made a great play. I don't. Okay, I love his accountability. I think it was pretty good. Yep. But it was a great run, and he had a very good game. He's amazing. Got a touchdown called back. They moved the ball. I think people are nitpicking when you're saying, "Oh, they should have run the ball even more." No. You got to give it. You got to play NFL football. This isn't 1960.
Right.
It's just you got. It's like it's not. They don't have Derrick Henry, folks. You can do that if you've got Derrick Henry. I got no problem with it. that's their identity. Then look at the times without Derrick Henry. You can't throw it.
I'm laughing at this stat that the Eagles run 33 times for 208 yards, and the Giants ran 27 times, which is only 6 fewer, and they got 70 yards. I mean,
by the way,
can you
want to get
imagine
the defense? Want to get the defense?
Yeah, sure. Well, actually, wait.
Okay.
So before we move on, because I did want to finish up on the offense.
Sure.
Dallas Goedert was covered. It looked to me like the Giants a few times off the line of scrimmage were putting that extra body on him, or they were if the Eagles tried to rub route, they were getting physical with him. They played. You got to credit the Giants for that. That's just good defense for them.
They did. Absolutely give them credit. You always have to give whoever is in these games and they shut a player down. They did a good job. Now, I will tell you, our early word that we got is it wasn't just the accuracy that Hurts struggled seeing it. That's a term that Greg and Jason used on our pregame show. I totally agree. Right. I've talked about it several times. When he doesn't play well, he's not decisive. He's not sure where he's going with it. We also talked. I thought Greg did a phenomenal job of breaking down Daniel Jones, his struggles of being stuck in the pocket. It's just there's similarities to both quarterbacks in terms of not getting rid of it, or you're not going to the right guy, you're just not throwing it. And Daniel Jones has that issue. He had it in this game. But getting back to Hurts, he just had struggles, not only with accuracy, seeing it. You got to see it and deliver it. Really, the last 2 games, he's had issues with it. Where he was great in Denver,
right?
Not the last 2 games.
No, definitely not. I know there's a big kind of hubbub about the Devontae Smith not getting the ball on the final drive.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to wait to see the ultimate. There's no mandate that you throw it to Devontae Smith just because his name is Devontae Smith. If he's double covered, or if he's not open, or if he's open on the middle and you need the deep, then
can I ask you a question? If Reagor catches the ball, we having this conversation?
No, not at all. But people are gonna say you can't throw it to Reagor because he's not reliable. No, he's out there. He's an open receiver. You got to throw.
You know what? Don't keep him on the field then. I mean, what are we talking about here? This is what fandom's all about, and I get it. It's kind of like when you don't do something right, don't let the guy do it anymore. Okay, I hear you. But the guy, Reagor gets open, he wins, and he drops the football. What are you going to do? If you want Sirianni to bench the guy, go for it.
Right.
But the guy got open, and he drops it. Case closed.
There you go. I remember, it's funny, I was working at the Fanatic as a host. Carson's rookie year is 2016. They go 3-0. Then they go to Denver and they lose in overtime. And Carson gets picked off by Darius Slay when he was throwing a deep seam to Nelson Aguilar.
You mean Detroit.
What did I say?
Denver.
I'm sorry, Detroit.
Okay.
So he gets picked off by Slay on a deep seam route to Aguilar. And people were calling up saying that Doug shouldn't have put Aguilar down. Like, he shouldn't have had Aguilar as a receiving threat.
This one is really bad.
And I said, but they don't have you remember how bad the Eagles were at receiver? They had Dorial Green Beckham, they had Jordan Matthews, and they had Aguilar. Who the fourth receiver was, I couldn't even begin to tell you. I don't even think Paul Turner was up on the 53 at that point. Yeah. So then it became, then fine, if he's got to be on the field, you can't design routes for him to go deep. Well, you have to have a deep receiver. Someone's got to clear out a safety. Everybody's got a responsibility on a play, whether they get the ball or not. So if they're out there on the field and they're open, you have to throw them the ball and live with the results. You don't just not throw it to a guy who's open. That's not how it works in the NFL.
That's exactly my point. It's like, listen, I get it. Reagor dropped passes. He doesn't play well this season. Totally fair.
Yeah.
But geez, I mean, it's like it's just so funny. Oh, Josh Huff was a part of it. Josh Huff was a guy who could run.
Yes, Josh Huff, right. He was there too. That's another guy who really struggled to catch the ball once he was 10 to 12 yards past the line of scrimmage.
Yep. So there you go.
All right, so we mentioned the offensive line. Dallas Goedert. Hey, he was just covered well. Devontae Smith, all that good stuff. We'll get into the defense. Let's first pause real quick and talk about our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. You're going to want to check out their great coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto, so make sure you're giving them a look there at PHLSportsNation.com. Also, check them out on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. We'll pause real quick for a word from our great friends and sponsors, including our buddies at Sky Motor Cars. And if you stop into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You will get a great deal. All right, let's talk Eagles defense. It's going to kind of get overshadowed this week. They played well. I mean, I thought, from top to bottom, I know they're going against the Giants, but they played well. They gave the team. I said this during the pregame show, and I don't know that Greg and Jason Avant agree with. Well, Jason definitely disagreed. I think Greg did. Okay. I said I didn't think there was going to be that big of a drop off from Davion Taylor getting hurt and Alex Singleton playing more. And there wasn't. I think I was right. There were, at least for one game, I did not see a very big drop off in Alex Singleton playing next to T.J. Edwards.
They're two completely different players. It couldn't be. They're totally different what they bring. Yep. Singleton's a tackling machine. He doesn't
have
right. He doesn't have Taylor's athleticism. But the thing about Taylor, despite his thin build, my understanding is he became a much better tackler.
Mm-hmm.
Way more sure-handed than he'd been last year, and then this year. Much better recognition. You and I pointed out so many times where he was lost last season.
Mm-hmm.
But he was. It's a shame he keeps getting hurt. We'll see if he could come back for the end of the season. But I would say this. And you're right. The Eagles' defense was really good. Barkley had that really nice run, right?
Mm-hmm.
32 yards. He had. Let me find it here because I found it interesting because it looked like he hit 32 yards, right? 13 for 40, right? One of those carries is 32 yards. So the other carries were 12 for 8 yards. Okay, less than 1 yard a carry. Right. So that tells you how good their defense was. Jones he struggled. They did some disguise. They flooded areas for him to throw. He did make a couple, 3 or 4 good throws. He can run. He's a great straight line runner. He's got great speed. He's got good feet. He can do that. He did get him for a couple first downs, but overall, their defense played a solid football game. The defense is getting better. Now, the one knock, and it's true, lack of consistent pressure, that was an issue. But, as you said, you look at it, they only gave up 13 points. I mean, obviously, the defense was put in a tough spot with all those turnovers, but overall, they played a solid game.
Yeah, I mean, they had 7 tackles for a loss. By the way, Singleton with 3 of them. He led them, 12 tackles, 3 for a loss, and a pass defense. So, I think Singleton did fine, and he certainly was, around the ball all the time. Maddox had a nice pass breakup. Nelson had one. Darius Slay was great again. Had a pass breakup in the end zone.
That was a nice one.
On Kenny Golladay, I think it was, right?
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
They only got 4 or 5 hurries, but you also saw that the Giants went heavy at times on first down to try to run the ball. They did do a lot of play action under center. So, I didn't think, I don't know, could they have gotten more pressure? Sure. Did that hurt them? I'm not quite sure. There were about 3 big plays that the Giants made all game, and one of them was on the ground.
I mean, no one had over 50 yards. Golladay had 50.
Right.
There was a series where he had a couple of nice catches. My guy Chris Myrick from Cheltenham High, scored that touchdown.
I don't know how they let that touchdown. That's something we.
I don't. Yeah, I didn't think it was a touchdown, but nevertheless, this is just the defense. The defense was able to get its job done. It hung in there. It kept the team in the game, and the offense didn't do its job. That's, to me, the story is the offense didn't do its job on Sunday, and that's why they lost. I mean, there's no sugarcoating it. Quarterback struggled mightily. There's no doubt. But as I said earlier, yet all that's true. But he hung in there late. Mm-hmm. They were in there to win the game.
Yeah, Golladay was 3 of 50 on 7 targets. Listen, Darius Slay has been a treasure this week. I mean, he's just he might make the Pro Bowl as a corner on a losing team, which is really hard to do.
He's got to make it. He right now,
I'm not
the way
sure anybody's playing better. Yeah,
I have to. I think. Did we ask Greg? No, we talked about Mailata as far as ranking him, but I got to ask Greg on Sunday's show what just based on who's if he thinks he's playing better than
what, Jalen Ramsey?
Ramsey, who's basically playing in zone. They play more zone than anyone, by the way.
Yep.
Not Davenport, Lattimore, Marcus Lattimore. I'd like to know if Greg thinks, because last year he gave up some big plays. We know that Metcalf abused him. Mm-hmm. There were some times he just didn't play well, but he's been tremendous. He is big play Slay, man. He's been great, and Nelson's hanging in there. I know Avant pointed out, Jason pointed out, and Q did on Q&A. They're right. Tape showed it. These quarterbacks go after him because these receivers sometimes beat him, but they're not getting it. But that happens.
Yeah, I know Trevon Diggs was off to a great start for the Cowboys. He had 5 or 6 interceptions in the first seven or eight. What's
plays,
that? Yeah,
yep.
yeah. I was just about to say that he gives up a lot of big plays, and they're starting to use the double move against his aggressiveness now. Whereas Slay has been pretty consistent all year long. So, well, hopefully he finishes strong. The team finishes strong, and he can make the Pro Bowl because I think he's had an unbelievable season. Yeah, other than that, I thought, the defense gave them a chance to win the game. As you mentioned, the offense fell all over itself, and that's basically it right there. There's not really – the defense played well, but other than Slay with the pass breakup in the end zone, I can't think of too many, real impact plays the defense made. They just were very steady. They didn't break too much. Right.
Right. They didn't turn it over. They had a very solid game, but
Barnett actually played well. He's actually been playing well for the last 2 weeks. Yeah,
he's actually the dumb penalties are dumb penalties. Everybody knows it. It's no secret. This has been a story of his career. However, he's made some he's got impact pressures, playing the run. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's bringing it. There's no doubt. Sweat had some good rushes. Cox had a huge tackle for loss. But they hung in there. They're not a high pressure in terms of turnover defense. It's going to force a lot of turnovers, but they're not. The thing that they're not doing is getting that pressure they were getting the first half of the season. For whatever reason, I don't know. With a pre-snap and post-snap disguise, I thought they would.
Obviously, it was really just Hargrave. I mean, it's not like everybody else had a ton of sacks. It was Hargrave who was getting most of the pressure. Yeah,
right. Agreed. But overall, Barnett had a really good game, and we definitely should point that out. But
yeah, there was a point, Adam, where the Giants, and this was big if you consider how the game went now, the Giants got down to the Eagles' 26-yard line, and then Barnett had a tackle for a loss for about 4 or 5 yards, and then he got held on the next play for a minus. That backed the Giants back 15 yards, and I think Gano missed the field goal after that. I think that was the drive. So that actually wound up having a pretty big impact and giving the Eagles a chance to still be in the game and not let it get a little bit more out of hand there. So as much as I called for them to, I think after the whatever game it was it after the Denver game where he had another penalty, I said they may have to get this guy off the field for a quarter or something as a disciplinary thing.
That's what I wanted them to do. Absolutely. Yeah. You can't bench him because they just don't have anyone else, with Graham out for the season.
Right.
And he's a good player, not great, not very good, but he's better than average to good. And he's in a contract year. He knows it. He's got to be more consistent. But lately, as you said, he's been playing better. And overall, here's the thing, though. I do want to mention this: the Jets, who did win on Sunday. I think we've done a pretty good job of sort of. I appreciate the comments on Twitter from some of the Giants fans and the Broncos fans on the on our YouTube comments. But this Jets team, when we break this thing down, by the time we're done it on Friday morning, you're going to go, how in the hell could the Eagles possibly lose this game? They have so little talent.
Yeah,
it's. I know this team really, really well. They just lack talent, and I give them credit. They play hard. It's another team that's severely undermanned. Got a lot of cash next year and a lot of draft picks, but they're far away from being a 500 team. I'm going to tell you something. If the Eagles lose this game, I'm just going to give you guys. I'm giving y'all the early word, man. I'm going to have fun with it because they got one of my favorite young players, Elijah Moore. He's a guy to watch in this game, but man, they just have very little talent. And if the Eagles don't win this game, I'll take my toupee off. I'm serious. Wait, get it off?
Does Flacco start that game? Because I thought I saw that
Wilson
Zach
came
Wilson
back
had to
in.
leave.
Yeah,
he did come back in?
Yeah, he didn't miss any.
That's too bad. Too bad. That would have been, well, not too bad. I don't mean for a guy to get hurt, but I'm just saying.
But you want to see Flacco, right?
It would sure be. It would sure make for some intrigue, wouldn't it?
Oh my goodness gracious! It's look to sum this thing up, man. This game was for the taking. This one total. Again, the Giants did not deserve to win that game. The self-inflicted wounds is just. Geoff and I aren't Eagles fans. We're just calling it down the middle of what we're evaluating.
Yep.
This game, to me, if I'm an Eagles fan, I'm and I saw the anger and I get it on our Facebook board. I totally understand it. Reading some of these quotes actually during the game, I'm like, oh my man, people are just that. I mean, they're probably going to break.
Pretty heated.
It's not. I get it, folks. You're just venting. But let me tell you something. If your Eagles lose to the Jets, man,
Twitter may explode if Eagles Twitter may explode if they lose to the Jets.
It exploded during the. You're right, man. It exploded during the game. But anyway, that's all I got.
Gonna have to make sure I get over the bridge safely that day if the Eagles lose to the Jets when we're coming back from wherever we're coming back from from our pregame show. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. Big thanks to our producer, as always, Hunter Brody. Check out his work. His YouTube channel is called Sports Talk with Broads. His website, broadsmedia.com. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the Birds.